Okay. Greetings, brothers and sisters. I am not signing into this. Fortune app. Um, the Treasury just declared the U.S. is insolvent. The media missed it. Well, I didn't miss it. I told you about this for years, but here, I told you about it when, I'll show you the meme afterwards with Elon Musk. U.S. government is insolvent. That's not hyperbole. It's the conclusion drawn directly from Treasury Department's own consolidated financial statements for fiscal year 2025, released last week to near total media silence. The numbers 6.6 trillion in total assets against 47.78 trillion in total liabilities as of September 30th, 2025. Also, I showed you this meme with Elon Musk where I'll show it after I'm done here, but he's going to say that U.S. is paying $3 trillion in debt every year, $2 trillion in, over our budget, and $1 trillion in fucking interest, right? So when we bring in $5 trillion a year in revenues, from taxes, I mean, that's, your money, tax money, whatever it is, our money, your corporate, whatever. And the budget is $7 trillion. And then there's other things they add to it that are not a part of the budget, right? These are unfunded, these things are not part of the budget, like Social Security and things like that. And so there's even more than and then there's the $1 trillion in debt. So it's $8 trillion a year is not our living expenses, right? And then plus more things, extra things that are out there that are not accounted for. And we only bring in five. So it's like you're fucked, right? And then there's all this debt to where the interest pretty soon will match the complete amount of tax revenue. It'll be like revolving debt where you can just pay the interest every year. And that's just on the national debt. There's more debt there. There's $100 million in total U.S. debt. And then there's a derivatives market, which is all debt. And so America's $1 quadrillion in debt because the derivatives market is something like 700 trillion. And that's not just all American, but there's global derivatives. I think the American part is between 6 and 7 trillion, depending on how much it's being valued at. But here, let me show you this Elon Musk meme where he admits this.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'm like, stack them up, But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, there's a lot of wood up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget.
Okay, so this has been known for a long time. Like, we're insolvent. I am not an economic person. Like some of my friends, a lot of my friends took business as their major in college, right? They wanted to be businessmen. And, I was allergic to business and financial things. I bounced a lot of checks, even though I had the money. Like I was working jobs and stuff, like when I was in school. Just bad financial decisions and overdraw because I wasn't keeping a track of my checking account, things like that. And so, like, I'd go get drunk, in college and take money out of the bank and then not account for it later on, and checks would bounce. So I had all these issues, right? I'm having to recreate this voiceover because I made this in the Premiere Pro app yesterday after I started editing these videos and I somehow didn't save it. So I have to recreate it. But I'm trying to kind of remember what I was saying yesterday about this. But I'm not, born to do business, right? That was the point. I was, I'm not somebody who knows about business or likes it. I don't like it. Like I don't, I am, have a sort of an aversion to it. But what I do like, what I have always had sort of a proclivity for is collapse. I find a lot of interest in things collapsing. The destruction phase of things. It's something that there's a lot of energy in it. You can see now, like what's happening. Trump's going to talk about Trump time later on when he's depressed and gets kind of a laugh from his cabinet. But every day there's something like he's talking about. Trump time, anything can happen. Like how much happens in a single day. And I had this dream last night, which I'll cover in my next video, about aliens and planes falling from the sky and like World War III. So it was the whole thing. But like it's an intense time, and that's when you're in a time where, whether it's a divorce or a time of death or a time of bankruptcy or things going south. When things end, there's a lot of energy in it. There's a lot of rush. There's a lot of there's just drama and there's interest. There's things that are there. I first recognized that I worked with this guy for this. This guy opened a restaurant, and he was he said he was from Sweden, but he was Hungarian or something. And like I've talked about this guy quite a bit in various videos. And he was, very ethnic, and he had a wife who was, short and stocky, right? And she was managing the restaurant. And one time she walked by and he goes to me, and I think she heard, like, and he said, I used to date beautiful women, but now I have hard worker, right? And the guy was just, he'd go through periods of time where he would be a complete dick because the restaurant was doing well, or he'd be begging the wait staff to stay because the restaurant was collapsing. And like he was, he had ups and downs. He got a good review. This is in Northampton, Massachusetts. But then the thing, I worked there like I quit working there and I came back and started doing like, just one or two shifts there. Like it's for extra money. It was my last waiting tables job too. Like I was just over it. Well, I worked at one restaurant for like 3 days, but that place was one day, and I quit because it was just so bad. I just couldn't do it anymore. But the place started to collapse, and I'd been a part of restaurants that had this before, and there's just a lot of interest in it, right? There's just something there, and that's why I call it the apocalypse. And so I'm about collapse, right? And so when I realized that the economy was fucked, and I heard from various people, I used to listen to that guy Max Kaiser, and some of these other financial people, and they were talking about being insolvent. This is 10 years ago, like the banks were insolvent, and all these things. Insolvent means that you have more liabilities than you have assets, and a bank gets to such a point where it can never recover. It can never reverse what's going on. And with the derivatives market, all these banks end up having more liabilities than assets. They are trading debt, and of course our country. And so, when I started to look into it, and I understood it as being insolvent, like I understood, the numbers, and you can just, apply your own understanding of when you get into personal debt, and how you're going to pay that debt off, and unless you like win the lottery and something like that, it's not going to happen. Like you need some kind of incredible thing to happen to you, right? And so, like, you get into that point. Trump has gone bankrupt multiple times, and then you have to say go bankrupt. But America can't go bankrupt and can't win a lottery. Like it's just as a country. It's just So when a country becomes insolvent, it's just a matter of time before they admit it, right? Like there's this. You ever seen that movie, Margin Call? Is it Margin Call? I think it's Margin Call. There's two good movies, Margin Call. And the Big Short. It's the Big Short I'm talking about. And in the Big Short, there's these guys who figured out. They started to take derivatives positions. They started to bet against the bonds or the double A rated subprime. Everyone was betting against some of the subprime loans, but this is when there was a real estate collapse, right? And these guys figured out that the double A were also shit, and they were also bad. and this is where the derivatives market was created, and they started betting against these loans. These loans were given, without people were just banks were giving out loans to people who couldn't pay. Many of the loans were, I forget they were adjustable, and some of these people were going to get big balloon payments where they, were paying like $1,000 a month, and they were going to have to pay $9,000 a month, right? And so they weren't going to be able to make their mortgage payments, and so people were betting. These guys started betting against them, and the banks laughed at them because the AA rated ones, the lower rated ones, sure, but the banks let these guys take their short positions. And there was this one guy in particular, played by Christian Bale, and he was the first guy to go in, and he was managing like a hedge fund, and all the hedge fund people wanted their money back because they figured he was crazy, right? But the banks, they realized that the guy was right, but they wouldn't acknowledge it till they had their own short position, till they got in on the derivatives. So this is where the banks realized they were fucked because these guys had bet against these things and they were going to have to pay up. So they wouldn't admit to it, right? They wouldn't admit that these loans were shit. And so there was a period of time where these lots of people knew that the collapse was coming. And Margin Call was another version of this. These are two good movies to watch on that subject. But either way, this was a time where, they delayed the acknowledgement of an economic collapse, which is what's happened now for years. Our economy's already collapsed. We've been insolvent now for 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And it's so much more than the national debt. So at some point, they're going to, have to do something, and this is probably what's happening now, right? Because this, when the economy collapses, your lifestyle's just fucking gone. It's just, there's nothing there. It means like we'll be a third world country. And so, like I said, I'm not a business person, and I don't really love looking into financial things, but I understand it. And if I understand it, they understand it, right? Because I don't have access to the information, and I don't, I'm not that person. I'm not I don't have a kind of an aversion to this stuff. But I do understand collapse. I do understand, things breaking down, and I've been like sort of made in that way, like just in terms of my personality and what I'm interested in, and all these things, and then having access to the information, the whispers of the brighter world messages, and all these things. Like I am a vector of all this kind of stuff, and it's clear that we're fucked financially, and there's no way to unfuck us. And what Elon Musk was talking about here, because he said we're going to go bankrupt unless we do this. Well, we're already bankrupt. He doesn't want to admit it, but Doge fucking failed. Like, where's Elon now? This whole thing. And so, when Trump ran against Biden, I said they're running to get to see who gets to loot what's left of America wealth. But of course, there was an extra term, which was Trump's term now, and they're just glomming at whatever they can assets, and it's like America's like one of these companies that you saw that, like that movie Pretty Woman, where you have these corporate raiders, also Wall Street, these guys who would buy up a company and then sell off the parts because they the company itself wasn't worth anything, but the pieces were, right? And these guys would come in and do a hostile takeover and sell off all the assets for their own financial gain, right? And so this is where we're at. And so all these things that are happening are because of that. Like they can't wave a magic wand and fix the debt problem. And so they have to rearrange everything. There has to be some sort of, and depopulation and whatever it is. So I'm going to cover a lot of things here. And Trump loses his shit. Like he just absolutely loses his shit in a cabinet meeting. And he's disavowing NATO and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to make reference to it, I think, somewhere in here. Because, like I said, I shot all these clips yesterday and I have to recreate this voiceover. But it's, it's so bad. Like, it's so bad. Anyways, let's get into it here. Okay. So this thing here, Trump, this is his timeline of the war. Trump wants a ceasefire with Iran. Trump declares victory. Trump is sending Marines to Iran. These 1208, Trump is putting boots on the ground. 1211, Trump does not want a ceasefire. 1212, Trump says Iran has no people left. 12:16, Trump declares victory. 12:17, Trump asks for a ceasefire with Iran. 12:18, Trump asks for help with Iran. 12:23, Trump says NATO are poo faces. 12:29, Trump says Iran begging for ceasefire. 12:31, Trump says everything is perfect. 12:36, Trump says $500 oil is a good thing. 12:37, Trump demands Iran open Hormuz. 12:39, Trump says Hormuz was never closed. 12:41, Trump says U.S. not at war with Iran. 12:42, Trump declares a victory in Iran. 12:44 says war with Iran for nukes. 12:45, Trump says Iran never had nukes. 12:46, Trump says objectives very clear. 12:47, Trump says world owes him a thank you. Trump says the world are proof faces. 12:53, Trump gives a peace prize. 12:57, Trump declares victory in Iran. 12:59, Trump bombs Iran. 1:03, Trump wants a ceasefire with Iran. So this is an old video from Trump. And the caption was, future generations are never going to understand when we try to explain Trump to them. Right? And this is an old clip from his first term.
And I just want to thank you because you're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you.
All right, so these are Native American servicemen getting some kind of a medal, right? Now, Trump has always had problems with the Native Americans because of the casino laws in Atlantic City. Trump invested heavily in Atlantic City. And there's these casinos that opened in Connecticut for, Indian gaming where they could have their own casinos and their own, And Trump would say, these guys don't look like Indians, right? Because he was pissed because they had a, better situation in terms of the laws, because they were doing it on tribal land where they could, they didn't have to pay taxes and other things. So he was getting his ass kicked by them. And he was claiming that they weren't real Indians, right? So, which of course they weren't. They were Native Americans. But either way, this thing goes with Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren goes back a long way. But he couldn't help himself here, right? This is just fucking Trump. Iran, the movie.
Sir, they're about to go nuclear. How long do we have? They're 2 weeks away. How 2 weeks away are they? Even more 2 weeks away than they were 5 years ago. My God! That's dangerous levels of 2 weeks away. I know.
All right, so I'm worried they're going to copyright this, but pretty funny. You can find it on Twitter. They're pretty 2 weeks away, and it goes on from there. So I think my wife sent this to me last night, and there's a whole bunch of things that came in, but when I scroll down this person's page, which, somehow I lost the video, there was just all stuff about Israel getting fucking slain, like all these video clips about Israel getting, pounded, right? And this guy's a mayor. How many rounds? We were fighting for our home. Like he's begging Netanyahu here, some mayor. We're doing everything we can here. But there is no state behind you here. To succeed, you need a state. You cannot do it alone. You finished Mesava Vanam. You finished Shuba. You finished Gadar. You finished everything. You've already finished everything. What are you doing? What are you doing, Lord of the Universe? What are you doing? He's crying.
מה אתם עושים? או שתגידו
Either admit that you are incapable of dealing with this situation and
שאתם
release
לא
us,
מסוגלים לטפל באירוע הזה ותשחררו אותנו, או שתעשו
or do what you need to be done, Lord of the Universe.
מה שצריך כבר, ריבונו של עולם.
Is that I think he's begging for a nuclear strike here. So this guy, Ethan Levis, I'm just going to scroll through his stuff here. Trump watches daily videos his military puts together to convince him his war is going well. I'm losing my mind. I'm utterly in disbelief at Hezbollah's strength. All I heard for 2 years was how destroy the weak, broken Hezbollah is. Now they're firing rockets filling the sky of Israel. Israel's losing, citizens are fleeing, cities are falling. We can't hold on much longer. Karat Shimon Beer speaks on persistent Hezbollah border threat. Residents in northern Israel are now giving 0 seconds of warning from Hezbollah rockets. Israel is vulnerable. There's just all this stuff. These things here. The cluster rockets. So, I mean, who's to say? Like, it's all disinformation, but look at these guys. Israel killed 80,000 people in Gaza are asking for fucking money. The eternal victims strike again. I don't know what that is. This guy getting, I don't know, people getting beat up there. And there's just, this is what's up there, according to this guy. So somebody blew this up here, Space Force. This is Trump blown up here when Pete Hegseth is talking. And they're saying how old Trump is, and yeah, he looks old, but he really looks depressed. Like he's just beaten. Trump's not a happy person. Like once in a while he jokes around and laughs, but he's mostly not. He's, look at him, like that's just, I mean, he's low energy Jeb. I mean, he's depressed and bummed out and just, like he knows how fucked he is. Fucking depressed Trump. Look at him. His pink fucking tie. Okay, so I'm very much not a fan of some of these videos. They always, to me, look fake. So I managed to record the video after they deleted it since it was on a tab still open from before they deleted it. I knew it was not fresh. Rather, I hit the rock button. At first, it was told me that it was video of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying, "That's so cool, it's launching soon, right?" And a man identified as Benjamin Netanyahu responded, "Yes." Then I put the model in expert mode and hit grok button again, and it said almost the same thing, except the second time it said the only audio came from Leavitt. It didn't say anything about Netanyahu or any of their voices. So Benjamin Netanyahu is alive, and the U.S. is planning to launch strikes at the White House. Is that what's going on? Why would our press secretary be asking that a question like that? Why would she film it, then posted it? What actually fuck is going on? Well, it seems fake, but I'll play it anyway here. It's they show her shoes here. There's her golden shoes.
It's launching soon, right? It's launching soon, right?
That's cool. It's launching soon, right? So, I don't know. It sounds like her voice, but of course anything could be. I would assume this thing's fake, but I'm throwing it out there because who knows. Dominoes are falling in the days, not weeks. Here's a global oil crisis country by country as of today. This is the Strait of Hormuz stuff. Sri Lanka rationing 4-day week, schools closed, 4-day work week. Pakistan crisis, overnight price surge, long queues, 4-day work week. India, 9 days of reserves left, emergency suppliers being hunted. South Korea, 50 days left, clock ticking. Japan lied, said 254 days, actually usable reserves, 95 days. UK, shell company warning shortages start in April. Germany, gas up 30%, EU emergency plan launched. France paying 30% more at pumps than 8 weeks ago. South Africa government says stable, citizens photographed empty pumps. Turkey stocks crashed, inflation imploding, currency under pressure. Brazil watching nervously, own oil helps but supply chain hurting. Australia tanker delays, imported dependent, open IEE coordination holes. USA gas taxes suspended in states, SPR drawn down, Iran sanctions quietly paused. China 1.4 billion barrels stockpiled, banned exports, still getting Iranian oil. So that's happening. This is just 26 days of the Hormuz blockade. 20% of global oil gone, 8 million barrels a day gone. OPEC's response, plus 200,000 barrels, that's 2% of the whole. Here's what no one's telling you. They're showing you reserves are sufficient. They're not showing you Japan overstayed reserves by 3 times. South Africa has emptied its pumps, and India has 9 days. The real energy crisis hasn't even started. RT, so this doesn't get buried, the algorithm. Asia oil dependency supply chain. Here's the what's coming out of Strait of Hormuz, and it hits India and these other countries here. Japan, South Korea. This is where that oil goes to. So, this is bad. Somehow Savannah Guthrie's trending. I forgot about her story. They still I guess they haven't found her Bob yet. Which is, I don't know why, whatever. There was this I missed from yesterday.
Little mishap. They shot down 3 planes with our missiles. They happen to be our planes. But the pilots made it. Can you imagine the pilots making it? The pilots saw what was coming. And they said, those are Patriots. We're not going to escape Patriots. And they got out of there pretty quick, Pete, right? Pretty amazing that they got out.
You shot down 3 of our own planes and you're joking about it? And the pilots somehow got out? Where did they get out to? Are they in Iran right now? Like, what the fuck? You shot down 3 of our own planes.
3 pilots lived. They're fine. In fact, they're flying today.
Was the Kuwaitis that accidentally fired the missile?
Yeah, the Kuwaitis made a mistake. They fired. They thought they were firing at the enemy. It was, as the expression goes, friendly fire.
Jesus Christ.
But the pilots are great. They're flying today.
The guy just doesn't have a filter, right? He gave some award ceremony where he's just, I've already seen one little clip from that, but I'm going to show you the whole thing. Like he gives some kind of speech and he talks about Iran in the beginning and maybe in, the middle and the end, but they'll probably cover that at the end of this thing. There's so much more shit to go. I just got through the Twitter stuff I have. I have about 5 or 6 YouTube videos and I haven't even looked at the news today. Okay. So I just went and ate breakfast, and I wanted to see if there's any big news. So I was talking about how I taped Morning Joe on YouTube TV, and this is what they led with.
The president has done so much for the American people, and we want to honor him in some small way, some token of our appreciation for his leadership. And so tonight, we have created a new award.
You've created a new award for Trump? I wonder what this new award is called. I know what it's called.
We're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to honor him with a new award that we'll present annually from this point forward.
Annually, until Trump and the Republican Party implode, and then that we have a democratic rerun system from henceforth. And then, 3 years from now.
But he is the suitable and fitting recipient of the first ever America First Award. We can think of
the America First Award. You mean the guy who has just done everything Israel wants him to do, and which is detrimental to the American people and the American economy and America and everything? I mean, it's a Trump first. It's not America first. It's Trump first. And Israel first. Israel first, Trump second. Right? So.
No better title for what that is.
I mean, just unbelievable.
That's this beautiful golden statue here, appropriate for the new golden era in America. And we want to let you know before we bring the president out and present this award to him that tonight we set yet another record. We've been setting fundraising records along the way. Last year, we broke all the records there are. Just by way
It's a golden statue.
example, I've transferred $18.5 million.
Looks like an American eagle. 1776, 2006, 2026.
Dollars to the NRCC and candidates just this quarter. We're going to continue that, thanks to the people in this room, all through the year. That's the resources that are required to ensure that we grow the majority and save this country. But
wow, no applause.
The individual that is responsible for all of that success, it's a team effort, but it's led by the commander-in-chief at the top. So we want to bring out the President of the United States in just a moment and thank him for his unwavering commitment to the American people. And because of that, it is our honor, on behalf of all House Republicans, all of you here, and all patriots across the country, present the very first America First Award to the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, come on out.
He's proud to be an American where at least he knows he's free. No, I'm free to do as much for Israel as possible. Okay, so this gay-ass song got copyrighted. Look, wait, me? I'm getting an award? I wasn't expecting this. So I gotta talk over the song, get rid of it, and you'll hear my commentary here. I mean, just really stupid. That horrible song, this goofy award, right? Trump just sucks so bad. Well, here's the commentary. It's no Nobel Peace Prize, but holy shit, I'm getting another award. Look at me. All right, so this is the beginning of his speech. We'll cut back to this later. Holy fuck. We'll come back to this later on in the video. Okay, making America safe again. He really sticks it to Pete Hegseth here.
Fortunately, I called Pete, I called General Kane,
Wait, is it West Palm Pete? Did you call West Palm Pete? It's West Palm Pete, right?
So you're not Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Palm Beach Pete.
They call me Cuba Pete. I'm the king of a rumba beat.
called a lot of our great people. We have great people, and I said, let's talk. We got a problem in the Middle East. We have a country known as Iran that for 47 years has been just a purveyor of terror, and they're very close to having a nuclear weapon.
2 weeks away.
We can keep going and get that 50,000 up to 55 and 60 is no end. Or we can take a stop and make a little journey into the Middle East and eliminate a big problem. And Pete, I think you were the first one to speak up, and you said, let's do it.
Look at him. You're gonna get. It's gonna be you, Pete. Yeah, I'm fingering you right now because he knows he's fucked, and he knows he's fucked, and now he's fucked him over. It's West Palm Pete.
You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So we are now having.
And it's just the fucking lies. That's not the way it went at all, right? Michael Rubio already ratted you out, said that Israel's going to attack, and then Iran was going to attack U.S. assets as soon as that happened, and so you were forced. Your hand was forced, but your hand was forced all along with Israel. You've done everything possible for them, which is not America first, not even Trump first, right? Like they fucked you, and whatever reason, whether they got something on you, whatever reason you're doing this.
Really good discussions. They started last night, a little bit, the night before that, and I think they're very good. They want peace. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see. You have to get it done. But I would say there's a very good chance.
Yeah, he's just saying that because the economy's fucked. I mean, it's so fucking bad right now. Like, it's so bad. And the line is so fucking brutal. And the celebration giving him America First Award. It's Palm Beach Pete, and we got a Palm Beach Pete update sighting later. Okay, so I had another speech that I was going to go to from Trump. That speech where he got that award. But then he held a cabinet meeting today, and I watched maybe the end of it when he was disbanding NATO and condemning the Democratic Party to eternal hell and calling dyslexia a mental illness or a disability. Yeah, he did all that shit in a span of, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. So we're going to have to cover that instead. But first, I want to get to this.
Let's continue on, obviously, following this landmark social media trial in California that wrapped up after 40 hours of deliberations as a California jury on Wednesday found that Meta and Google's YouTube were to blame for depression and anxiety of a woman who compulsively used social media as a small child. This a post from TMZ here on Live Now from Fox, saying Meta was just hit with a couple of huge verdicts and ordered to pay big after they found liable 2 different lawsuits this week. Jurors concluded that Meta and Google should pay the woman $3 million in compensatory damages and an additional $3 million in punitive damages. Let's be joined right now here on Live Now from Fox by Legal Affairs.
Okay, so I have a problem with this on a couple levels. Now, Google and Meta, YouTube and Meta and all these different social media outlets, they all do the same thing, which is they find ways to addict you. That's true. The problem is, what fucking responsibility do the parents have? I mean, the parents allow a young kid to be on the internet. That's 100% on them, right? Not protecting. And is this woman's life, she claims it's worth $6 million, right? She deserves $6 million because, like, in a wrongful death suit, you get like $1 million, right? 1.5. These ridiculous lawsuits about emotional damage. And, for one, it's her parents. Her parents are at least partly responsible. More than Google and Facebook, right? Just the parents. And, I don't know how much this girl was end up being addicted to the internet afterwards. But, as parents, you can't fucking let your kids and put little kids on the internet and take no responsibility. And so, it's pretty fucked. So, I don't know what age she got on the internet, but her parents were allowing her to do that. Like, her parents have to give her the device, right? Like, they're giving her, the syringe and the drugs, and then, which is YouTube and Google. So if you're talking about an addiction, the parents are, they should have to pay whatever. Like, if you're going to say that these guys have to pay $3 million each, her life is her emotional damage is worth $6 million, and her parents should have to pay $3 million as well, right? And they probably don't have that money, so it would be, it's not about how much Google and it's how much Facebook and Google have. It's how much this is worth, and it certainly isn't worth that. And I don't think this is. It is what it is, right? But that means every kid who's now depressed, which is so many of them. If they give them $6 million each, then that'll be the end of social media, right? And that's probably what they want to do here, is get rid of social media, and so that they can take back control. And, one of the ways would be to sue them out of existence. Because if you get, 10, 20 million kids, all who have grown up on the internet, all of them are depressed, which almost every kid is, and they all sue Google and Facebook for $3 million a pop, though that would pretty much put an end to all social media. So that's pretty fucked. Okay, so this place where they made up the America First Award for fucking aging, breaking down Donald Trump, NRCC, National Republicans to see things, something conference probably. I'm sure there's more clips of this that I'll receive, but I was going to cover the whole thing. But again, I'm getting into I'll be getting into the fucking cabinet meeting because he just went full freaking Trump.
Never seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us. There's never been a head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran.
Woo!
I don't want it. We listen to some of the things they say. We hear them very clearly. They say, I don't want it. We'd like to make you the next supreme leader. No, thank you. I don't want it. But I want to express my gratitude to the
All right. So
tremendous.
All right. So we're gonna get into this whole thing with NATO in a moment here. My wife just sent me 2 more things on Palm Beach Pete. Apparently, so they've been comparing his faces. So we're just going to ignore the fact Palm Beach Pete living in Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. Music off. Okay, so that's supposed to be his mansion. Right there. On Brillo Way. I mean, they live in the same place. This is a picture of Jeffrey Epstein. Notice this right here. Like just weird mouth. And look at him. Palm Beach Pete. He's Palm Beach Pete. You know, I mean, like it's just so weird. I don't know if Palm Beach Pete is Jeffrey Epstein, but he's not helping his case by living in Palm Beach and then coming out and saying, hey, I'm not Jeffrey Epstein, I'm Palm Beach Pete, in that fucking weird voice. So, those are the faces. Boom. And boom. Boom. And boom. Almost similar shirts. All right. Palm Beach fucking Pete. So they changed the name of this video from something like we're this close to collapse or something to something else. But this is an opposition party guy who to Netanyahu, who, I don't know, he's some big shot over there in Israel.
Never defined this way officially. I would say it's the second, me personally, who observed the situation and tried to intellectualize it in order to comprehend.
Yes.
I would say it's the second stage of religious war. At what sense? Up until October 7th, the conflict between us and Palestinians, which is bloody and malicious and awful, especially awful because it could have been resolved so many times before.
Exactly.
Was a political conflict between two national communities.
Yeah, not really. I mean, that's, you're understating or you're overstating what Palestine was. It was never a recognized nation, right? Because like, a two-nation state, there was no nation in Palestine, right? Two-state solution.
So political conflicts and national conflicts, as difficult as it is, we know what to do with that. October 7th was the first round of the full-scale religious war. Jewish fundamentalism at the Israeli government and Muslim fundamentalism at the Hamas government.
It's not a government.
And the philosophy of Hamas and the ideology of the Israeli government and some of its leading ministers was out in the open. With rabbis and chaplains in the army and ministers and members of Knesset expressing it loud and clear. So October 7th was first chapter of the deterioration of the political conflict into a religious one. This one in Iran, which is 3 years later, which historically speaking is maybe the same period. It is so fast. I mean, what is it 3 years in human history? It's nothing. It's not even a comma.
Yes.
Trump's going to talk about a day of Trump time and, how much happens in a day of Trump, right?
Yet when you live it day in and day out, it's difficult. It's heavy. It's sirens. It's kids not sleeping. It's sleepless nights and fear. But it's a different one. The war in Iran now, from my point of view, is the first religious fundamentalist world war.
Whoa.
Jewish fundamentalism, Christian fundamentalism, and Jewish fundamentalism at the battlefield.
It feels that way to me.
Unfortunately,
feels that way to me too.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it feels that way to me watching this. That's exactly what it feels like.
And the problem of you and me, as much as I take it that on many other things we are other sides of the other side of the street. On something like that, which is such an existential problem to our ideologies and our identities and our values. Never mind where are you in the other disagreements between us. We are watching. We're just watching. We didn't yet come forward and offered an alternative, a comprehensive.
Yeah, because the alternative would not be accepted. The alternative is you could give up your bullshit religion. Because all three of those religions and every religion is, you can still take some parts of it, but you have to change your whole orientation towards your relationship with God. And you have to transcend your religious bullshit and the hierarchy and the manipulation and the indoctrination. It's religions that are the worst, and people aren't going to give that up. And people are habitual, and even if they're offered something better, they won't take it because they've been so brainwashed by the religions. And so if people would take spirituality, I mean, if the Christians would listen to what Jesus said about the kingdom of heaven is within, and do what Jesus did and become what Jesus had become, they would transform the world. And all these religions would do that. But none of them want to give up their bullshit, right? And so that's the solution. The solution is divinity within you, which religions are blocking. And so you got to remove the religions. And so, when this all goes down and people are going to lose faith in their religions after their world collapses around them, these religions will collapse, depopulation, and then hopefully people can embrace their spiritual nature, right? But that is the solution. The solution is it's a people problem, and we need better people.
Attractive, spiritual and political, ideological, and maybe even eschatological alternative that fights them.
Look. What's he doing?
I ask myself with shame, I cannot tell you how much. We didn't yet open the chapter of what Jewish settlers are doing in the occupied territories in the West Bank. Daily crimes against innocent Palestinians conducted by wild, savage settlers, ignored by the army and by police and supported by members of Knesset.
Who's police?
Members of the cabinet. Daily. I'm full of shame. But the utmost one...
Shame, everybody knows your name.
...is, where the heck are the rabbis?
Where are the rabbis?
Where are the spiritual leaders?
I don't know. Maybe they think the Palestinians are goy. Could that be it?
Maybe they're not coming because they are the inciters? Because they're behind it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they
are you asking us? Because you probably know more. Like you live there and shit.
For it, because they promote it, because it promotes their messianic, ends of the day, eschatological philosophy.
Messianic.
And this is, as I said earlier, where classical Judaism implodes into Israeliness.
Israeliness.
How important is the rebuilding of the temple to the people you're describing, to the cabinet ministers, to the rabbis who are not speaking up against what's happening in the occupied territories? Is there actually an effort to do that, do you believe?
For the people in the street, not the rabbis, not the people engaged, not those you ask question about, to the masses, it's a non-issue.
Yeah, I figured that.
It is as if a kind of Disney World in Orlando.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do there whatever you like. Just give us a break, okay? Yeah. So for the masses, they are not there. On the other hand,
look at Tucker.
Since 1967, at least 5, I'm not at all sure that not more, at least 5 attempts to remove the mosques from the Temple Mount were done by these groupings since 1967. which means that when you come to address this question, it is not so much about the numbers.
You know, Temple on the Mount thing, remember, we've covered this before. Tucker's obsessed with it. But this is their whole thing, and they think this is going to bring in the Messiah and all these things.
Who support the removal of the temples and the removal of the mosques and the rebuild of the temples. It is about the dedication and the readiness.
So Tucker's going to say he didn't know that they tried to do it 5 times, and that'll be that. But this is their end of world stuff, right? Okay, so we'll start at the beginning here. The stuff that I saw is about 10 minutes in. So he's got all his yes men and ass kickers and taint lickers, right? He's surrounded by Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, and J.D. Vance is the other side of the table.
Brian's been on an excursion.
An excursion. Remember the excursion part.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Right.
Yes, sir. To some of the criminals, disgraceful. He's a disgrace to our country.
Right.
But they're Democrats, right? But sworn in, his family's amazing, so thank you very much. We're now on day 41 of the disgraceful Democrat shutdown of Mark Wayne's department. Congratulations. You came into a department that shut down by the radical Democrats, right? But Democrats...
After you had ICE guys who were not, police, not supposed to be dealing with American citizens who don't have anything to do with illegal immigration, killed a couple of American protesters. Remember that? Like, you're murdering American citizens with federal officers. Like, it's everything fucking America isn't supposed to be about, right? In terms of the founding fathers, something that patriots, like true patriots, and I'm not a patriot, I don't believe in that bullshit, right? But when people who do, vow to defend the Constitution, you're shitting all over it and they're going along with it because they're, people who call themselves patriots, like that bullshit, right?
Are really punishing the American people. I saw it today on one of the shows where they were interviewing people at the airport, and they're all angry at the Democrats. They're saying they're actually angry at Schumer. I didn't think anyone knew his name. One woman said, that Schumer is disgraceful. He's a disgrace to our country. But they're angry at the Democrats. They know what's happening.
You mean because you watch Fox News? Is that what you're saying? Because all you do is watch Fox News, and they give you little bits of information that makes it seem like you're winning this fucking war because you're being completely handled by Israel, right? You fucking punk.
But they're punishing the American people, including travelers at airports, all in...
Let's move forward here.
They go one way and they don't come back because for the most part we're shooting them down. But we also are able to... We've really done tremendous damage to the places where they make them. And just so we set the record straight, because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get...
You mean the Republican-based Wall Street Journal that's owned by Rupert Murdoch? You mean that?
They're like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw...
Why are you listening to them, right? If they're begging to make a deal, then they would take whatever you're going to give them.
What's happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But they say, oh, we're not talking to them. Anybody would know they're talking. And only a total fool. And they're not fools. They're very smart, actually, in a certain way.
In a certain way, they're smart. They're smart cookies.
And they're great negotiators. I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators. And...
Yeah, I mean, it isn't the same level of military. Lousy fighters,
they are begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. Or they should have done it when we first came into office, because 2 years ago they had free reign under Biden. Sleepy Joe, worst president in the history of our country.
Sleepy Joe. He brings up Sleepy Joe a number of times. And Sleepy Kamala. He calls Kamala Sleepy. That's coming.
He allowed to happen to our country at the borders. And even with a thing like this, But not just him. Every president for 47 years, every president should have done this. They should have done it a long time ago because you cannot give lunatics a nuclear weapon. And
exactly. They were 2 weeks away.
they would have had a big one.
They would have had a big one, the biggest one ever. I stopped. It would have been bigger than all of ours combined. It would have been big enough to destroy the world 1,000 times. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to obliterate the world. They were just 2 weeks away from that. I mean, they were 2 weeks away from having the biggest nuclear weapon of all time.
Stopped, really, when we did the B-2, but even before that, the Barack Hussein Obama, what he did where he gave them the Iran nuclear deal, gave them free will toward a nuclear weapon. Basically, he chose Iran over Israel and others that didn't want him to
exactly. And we always know we're supposed to choose Israel first.
But I terminated that deal. Had I not terminated that deal, you would have had a nuclear weapon years ago. And
we would. It just that was going to happen. Because that deal, which was so fucking good for the Iranians, pissed them off so much that they were going to give a nuclear weapon, and they were building one. It was twice the size of the Earth. I mean, it's that big. They were 2 weeks away from complete. It was a Death Star. They were building the fucking Death Star in Star Wars, and it was bigger than a planet. It was bigger than Earth. And they were building right there in Iran under the fucking mountain. And it was, somehow they collapsed it, but it was going to be bigger than the whole fucking planet Earth. It was only 2 weeks away.
Used, guaranteed. And one of the reasons you know about the guarantee is because their neighbors were sort of like bystanders. They weren't involved very much. They didn't choose heavy sides. They didn't want to because people were concerned with Iran. There was a big black cloud over the Middle East. They were concerned, but all of a sudden the war starts and they start shooting at these five countries. They start shooting at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE.
Crazy, like no one heard of such a thing.
Kuwait, Oman. They start shooting at them, and everybody was shocked, including us. You know why? Because they're sick.
They're sick cookies.
And they had a plan to take over the Middle East, and some of those...
They were going to destroy Israel. They're taking over the whole Middle East. They're about to do it. They're that close, 2 weeks away.
Missiles that were shot at them were locked long before we even started this process. They were locked and loaded and aimed at those countries. They wanted to take over the Middle East.
Okay, so that's a lie. Like, he's going to tell all these lies, and his dumb fuck people who can't think their way out of a fucking paper bag. It's there used to be a saying, you can't punch his way out of a paper bag. But, these dumb fuck people that follow him. But Iran had all these new missiles locked on these countries because their war plan, which is very effective, is to take down fucking the oil industry, to create fucking massive oil shortages, right? And make all these countries suffer. And, as much as they'll be blamed, it's going to be America and Israel that's certainly going to get the most blame. I mean, that's happening. And there's going to be, Trump's totally out his own. Wait till he talks about NATO here. He's out there on a limb like, no president ever. I mean, this is where he's talking about stuff, the greatest ever. Like, this is the actual, collapse of his presidency is worse than anything we've ever seen before. We've never seen anything like how bad he is before, right? Like, this is the real stuff that we're seeing. He's completely isolated and completely fucked, and I don't know what where he's getting his information, but I think he knows he's fucked. But Iran's plan was, okay, we can't beat them in a straight up fight, and we're not going to do it in terms of like just damage to Israel and these other like military bases. We're going to do it by taking down the oil industry, closing the Strait of Hormuz, eventually maybe closing the Red Sea or whatever they're going to do with that. They have that aspect going with the whatever those guys are called. That one group that they support. But that's what they're doing. They're stopping, oil production and reducing it by 20%. And, 100% is optimal, is almost necessary for everyone in the globe to have the proper amount of fuel. And so we're going to see massive shortages, and then there's going to be collapse. economic collapse. I mean, all kinds of things like bringing down the fucking. This is much bigger than bringing down the Middle East. This is bringing down, like, you know, if they're going to take over the Middle East, they wouldn't bomb oil facilities. They would take over those oil facilities, right? You don't bomb shit you want. Like, you don't bomb, like, what was valuable to you. If you're taking over a country for a gold mine, you don't bomb the gold mine, right? Well, fucking, you know, so it's just he's retarded, and so his followers.
But we happened to come along, so it wasn't so easy. So right now...
Sip your tea, you little fuck. You know? Sip your fucking tea, you fucking pussy.
The Navy is sunk in the largest elimination of a foreign Navy that has taken place, maybe ever, but certainly since World War II. Their Air Forces...
Look at this sad sack motherfucker. He knows it's over for him.
Gone. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled. And one of the problems they do have when they deal with us is we deal with people and the people aren't able to communicate with anybody else. So, you know, because all of their leadership has been gone. The first level is gone, and they met to pick a new level, and they're gone. They're all gone because they didn't make a deal and because they're sick people.
But now they want to make a deal that the newly created level. Like, what is he talking about? Like, you know, if the government gets weaker and weaker as you destroy it, there's less of a consensus, and then, you know, they don't have a hold over their own country, so they can't make a deal because it becomes thug rule, right? It becomes gang rule. You know, so if they're not holding together, the government isn't holding together there, you can't make a fucking deal. You can't do regime change and then make a deal with the regime you just fucking destroyed, right? And so, like, there's going to be no deal. I mean, you can make a deal and you just say, yeah, we have a deal and we're going to get out of there. But it's, you know, not if you've taken out their fucking regime.
They're sick. They're really sinister, sick people.
They're sinister, sick people. They just go fucking bomb other countries without any provocation, make up shit because some other little parasitic country tells them to do it. I mean, you know, they're sick. They're just fucking totally sick people. They're the sickest in the world.
If anybody thinks it was okay to have a group of people like this to have nuclear capability, nuclear weapons, and if we didn't attack with the B-2 bombers, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks of that, maybe 4 weeks.
Within 2 weeks, they were doing it. It was always within 2 weeks. I mean, this is the most urgent 2 weeks we've ever seen. Even though we obliterated it a year ago. Fuck you talking about, you fucking parasite, right? You know? But look at these guys. They're just over it. Like, they're just not even... They're like having out-of-body experiences. Look at these two fucking guys, right? Like, look at them. They know it's over. This sad sack motherfucker. I mean, they're all dour. It's fucking dour in there.
Between 2 and 4 weeks, they were planning to have a nuclear weapon. If we didn't hit them at that time with the B-2 bombers, and
nobody believes that, fucking Trump. Nobody fucking believes that, other than your dumb fuck followers, your double-digit IQ fucking followers.
The great air raids in history, maybe the greatest. Dark at night, no moon, no light. Every single bomb hit its mark and just obliterated them.
I mean, they were up, I don't know, 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet in the atmosphere, and there was no light, so they couldn't see where they're dropping the fucking... You mean, you know, that they did it without any light at all? Because that's not how they fucking drop bombs. They don't drop bombs, but hey, I think it's coming up. Their plane is flying at whatever fucking 500 miles an hour or whatever it is more. You can't just drop a bomb on eyesight, right?
Place. So it's now buried deep under earth. And it was an amazing thing, but they would have a nuclear, and they would have used it without question. And you know that because why did they shoot all these countries that weren't even really involved with them?
I've already explained that, dumb fuck.
They weren't involved. They had no big problems because they're sick.
Because they're sick, that's it. They're just sick people.
They want to take over the Middle East, not just Israel. Certainly Israel would have been the first on their list. They would have used nuclear weapons. A nuclear, you don't need too many of them. But they would have used a nuclear weapon on Israel, and they would have used it on the neighbors. And then they would have come after us. And if we had a weak president, they would have done great damage. But fortunately, you don't have a weak president.
You got me. I'm so strong and tough. I'm the epitome of, look at this guy. They just want out. They want fucking out so bad.
I knew what was happening. And I think we've been proven right. You know, they took one missile, went 2,500 miles. They supposedly didn't have a missile like that. They had no missile with that capability.
Supposedly? No, Iran did a fucking false flag attack, right? With one of their submarines. Why would they do that? Fucking no one believes that shit. Like, Jesus Christ, this guy.
But they shot the now famous Ireland, the island that the UK was very afraid to give us because they didn't want to get dragged in. But we don't want to get dragged into their wars either. You know? It's one thing we're very disappointed, I'll say it publicly, we're very disappointed with NATO because NATO has done absolutely nothing. And I've always said, 25 years ago, I mean, I was somebody that wasn't a politician, but I was always involved in politics and I understood politics. I said 25 years ago that NATO's a paper tiger, but...
Okay, so this isn't the part that I saw. And this is bad, but let's find the part that I saw here. So I bet this whole thing is amazing, but they look like they're at a fucking funeral. And this is, you know, that was the beginning of it. This is an hour and 23 minutes into this thing.
We're over their skies with the most beautiful planes you've ever seen. Roaming free, there's not a damn thing they can do about it. And it would be nice if, like the fake news New York Times, which writes so fake, and the Wall Street Journal is terrible.
They're all so fake. Everything that's not Fox News is fake, and whatever I say.
I mean, I read a story today that I'm desperate to make a deal. If I was desperate, he'd be the first to know. Pete, let's get the hell out of there. I'm the opposite of desperate.
I'm the whatever that word is. I don't know. What's the opposite of desperate?
I don't care. I want to know. In fact, we have other targets we want to hit before we leave. We're hitting them on a daily basis. No, I don't talk about you. I can't talk about specifics. A lot of people said that wouldn't matter. Maybe it does matter. Who knows? But I wouldn't talk. It's like the question this young lady asked. Sorry about I embarrassed her. I don't want to embarrass you because I think I think she's a friendly reporter, so I'm sorry. But you know, I can't say what we're going to do because if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here for long. They'd probably, what is it called, the 25th Amendment? They'd institute the 25th Amendment, which they didn't do with Biden, which is shocking.
The question is, apparently safe enough to leave the region, because Steve said that they've got enough uranium to make 11 bombs. That's a very scary thing. So,
well, it's again, I can't talk to you about that. You're asking me a question. You're essentially saying, will I go in and do something? I can't talk to you about that.
Mr. President, you're looking at a coalition of ships to help, warships to help protect tankers. How close are you to getting that coalition?
Well, we have a coalition for them, but they should have been up here a long time ago. And you know, they're affected. The amazing thing is we don't need the Hormuz Strait. We don't need it. We don't need it at all. We have so much oil. Our country.
Okay, so a guy who is supposed to be an economic guy, like I'm not an economic person. I would fail business if I had taken it in college, right? My friends took business classes. I'm not a business person. I'm not good with money or economics. I don't care about it, But I've had to learn about it doing this job, right? Like I've learned everything I know about economics doing what I'm doing here. And listening to people and watching things. And, this is where my dyslexia would kick in, in terms of my understanding, whatever I'm, and just not liking it, like having some not interested in it. But in terms of the collapse, so I understand economic collapse as well as anybody, in terms of I mean, as a person who isn't trained in it or doesn't know all the lingo, but I understand how things collapse. I understand, I've always found it funny. That's why I call it the apocalypse. I worked in this restaurant. The guy was from Sweden, but I think he was originally Hungarian, and he married his wife was she was also whatever some sort of ethnicity, and she was probably about 5'2" and sturdy, and and she walked by us, and he goes to me, "I used to date beautiful women, now I have hard worker." And this guy was having meltdowns. And he got a good review in the papers in Northampton, Massachusetts. And the restaurant was such a joke, and the waitstaff was so, we were all kind of fascinated with how this thing was, imploding, the restaurant. And, when I saw the restaurant basically going out of business, there was something just humorous about that process, right? You know, he just had opened the restaurant. I opened the restaurant with him. And, you know, when something's just falling apart, it gets interesting. You know, this is happening. America right now is interesting. You know, the government and the political stuff's interesting. It's more interesting than it's ever been. And people can say, well, that's not the case. It is. Truth is coming out that hasn't come out before. Extremism is there. I mean, it's like, you know, compared to now, there's nothing. Like, this is the culmination of something, right? To the end of something. The destructive phase. And the destructive phase is really, you know, the most entertaining and interesting, except, you know, when it's your country and the economy, then you know, the next phase is also kind of interesting, but you're too busy just trying to survive, right? But it's, you know, so I'm interested in the collapse, the apocalypse, and the you know, him saying the Strait of Hormuz doesn't mean anything to the United States. You know, this is a global economy, and if the other countries collapse, remember there was some kind of economic collapse in Japan, I think it was, in 2008, and that caused, you know, economic collapse all around the globe. I mean, it's, you know, like the Strait of Hormuz closing will totally affect America, and even if it doesn't, there's people all over the world that are going to starve because you're a puppet of Israel, you piece of shit, right? Netanyahu has his hand up your ass, right?
Is not affected by this. We have twice the amount of oil as Saudi Arabia or Russia, and soon it'll be 3 times the amount. Chris, do you want to speak to that for a second?
Yeah, you know, listen to one of my fucking lackeys. Listen to one of my fucking, you know, one of my what do they call them? Acolytes. You know, one of his cult followers, right? Listen to my taint liquor tell you, and, you know, they never disagree with me. Like, so let me go to them because they're the experts.
And that's correct. Our total oil production is greater than Saudi Arabia's plus Russia, and more than we consume in the United States. So we're the largest.
Pretty good. You know what they call it? Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Exactly.
Anything else you want to say?
Well, and same thing for natural gas. We before your first term, we were the largest exporter of natural gas in the world. Today, we're just by far the largest. I mean, we're the largest importer. Now we're by far the largest exporter, and it's growing rapidly this year. New facilities are coming online. New production's ramping up.
We're doing an amazing job. We get a lot of help from that man right over there.
That guy, right? Fuck this guy.
Getting approvals done quickly and very environmental. He's an environmentalist, actually.
This guy, such an environmentalist. He's so much of an environmentalist. He's a Trump fucking taint liquor.
Does a great job, but he gives you a fast approval or rejection. Do you have anything to say?
Well, back on Venezuela, where Chris and I have both had a chance to be there, I literally think they're going to put a statue to President Trump, and I'm not.
Oh well, he's so deserving. He should be. Every country in the world should have a fucking 100-foot statue of Trump. I mean, at the end, that's what's going to happen.
It's not a political statement. It's an actual thing.
So. That would be a great honor.
No, because
great honor. It would be. You know, like I'm not into that kind of thing, but you know, I mean, if they're going to give me a statue, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll make a fucking fake award for me.
It's like they view President Trump like Simon Bolivar. He's the liberator of a country, and this is a country where they love American baseball. You look on the street, they're wearing NBA jerseys, and Delcy and her team working with us, getting back. Chris and I both experienced it was the first time in Venezuelan history that they had the free press allowed to come on to essentially where the White House, the Palacio.
It's amazing.
And it was an emotional thing for people that had.
I mean, I'm crying right now, like you guys. I'm holding back my tears.
For 20 years, had never had a chance to be there. So whether it's
a miracle over there, it's another miracle. Trump bombing his way into miracles, taking out leaders, fucking kidnapping leaders.
And then production, it's showing up in production. The American companies that are coming back, most of those American companies have many American Venezuelan team members. One company in Houston's got 600 Venezuelan Americans that know more about reviving that industry. So their GDP is 1/4 of what it was before. They want to get back. They remember what it was. Their production on oil production is climbing towards 50% increase just in the 3 months we've been here.
Crazy. It's a fucking economic boom there. Trump is liberated. He's spreading magic dust all over the world.
That flows to American refineries on the Gulf Coast, lowering the price of gas in America. So it's a...
Forget that. When are they going to do the statue? The hell with
you. You've been really honest about how disappointed you are in Sir Keir Starmer, particularly in relation to Iran. So I'm curious about your phone calls with him, how easy they might be. And also, were you surprised by...
Are we talking about Starmer?
Yeah. Are you surprised by how weak...
I think he's a lovely man. I do. I think he's a lovely man. But I think he did something that was shocking. He didn't want to help us.
Okay, but you're winning the war in epic fashion. So what is it? Like, he's all over the place, right? So he's going to slam NATO. He's going to basically say NATO doesn't exist anymore.
And maybe in particular that country, we were the longest bond, the longest ally. Australia too. Australia was not great. I was a little surprised by Australia. I wouldn't say anybody was great other than the 5 countries in the Middle East. We never really had very much support. We spend trillions of dollars supporting countries, and this is Little League. This isn't the big league deal. This is sort of Little League pool for us. This was look, we decimated them in a period of a week. In the first week it was over.
It was over then. It was completely over. Although, they still are fucking bombing the shit out of Israel and other oil facilities and energy facilities and closed the Strait of Hormuz.
In the first few days it was over.
You just said you don't need the Strait of Hormuz, which means you've lost it, right? You're saying we don't need the Strait of Hormuz means that you can't fucking figure out how to stop that. And you've done all the missiles and bombing stuff that you could do. They have other things they can do. They can cripple their energy system. But this is going to come down to a ground war, and they have over 1 million troops. It's a massive army. China may get involved, so might Russia at some point. So that will be the World War III thing. But if you put ground troops in Iran, you're going to be there for 20, 30 fucking years. And this is, who knows when they get the Strait of Hormuz. There's some island out there that's America's going to try to take. And Iran's, bolstering its ability to stop that from happening and putting mines around it and all these things. They're booby-trapping the island. It's also key to Strait of Hormuz, right? But, the Strait of Hormuz is important, and you can't do anything about that, or you would have already done it, right? When you're talking about, we don't care about that, these other countries who are all fucked, he's expecting them to step up. The problem with this is NATO exists with the idea if anybody attacks a European country or America, which 9/11 was supposedly was, then they're supposed to get involved. So you could have done a false flag 9/11 type thing to blame it on Iran. I think most people would have called bullshit, so you didn't do that. Like the internet and your own party and all these people would have said this is bullshit, this didn't happen. And Iran wouldn't do that. Iran didn't want this war, but they were prepared for it. And so NATO doesn't apply here because you did a war based on what Israel wanted. All these countries know it, and their people are not on board. Americans aren't on board with this war. We weren't attacked, so they're not violating any of these NATO rules. This is a war where you're going and taking you're bombing the shit out of some people on behalf of Israel and some bullshit stuff that nobody believes. Only dumb fuck people. Your dumb fuck supporters, that's it, right? Really stupid people. Like everyone else who's got a pulse and any critical thinking skills know that's not true. And so he's disbanding NATO based in a rule that doesn't exist, right? These countries weren't supposed to help America on an America strike first war, right?
The Navy took us 3 days to essentially annihilate it. They weren't there. So if there's ever a big one, which I hope there's not, but if there's ever a big one, I don't think they're going to be there. And that's not fair. And we have to remember that as a country, because we spend trillions of dollars protecting Europe, protecting the countries of NATO. They weren't there for us. For small time. This is small time. You know what? Venezuela is a big deal, but it's not the big one. They weren't there.
He's waiting for the big one. You're waiting for the big one, aren't you? You're like, The big one's coming. Is that what you're saying?
So what makes you think they'd be there if we needed them for something? And your prime minister was not there, as you know. He was there after we won. He said, we'd like to send some ships. I said, we already won. We don't need them anymore.
We don't need them, but we need them. When did you need them?
Why he was reluctant to help?
Why he what?
Why he was reluctant to help with Iran?
He didn't have to. I didn't ask him. I just said, just tell me no. I mean, we're always going to be there. At least we were. I don't know about anymore, to be honest with you. I have to be honest.
So he's saying that America's not going to be there for them if they get attacked by, say, Russia. If Russia starts now, he's basically saying to Russia, go ahead and take Poland, right? Go ahead and go past the Ukraine and go ahead and take Ukraine and then take Poland. Because we don't know if we're going to be there for you because you weren't there for us, right? And Putin can just kiss his ass and, pretend to do something for him in terms of, I don't know, whatever Trump wants Putin to do. And then Putin can just start taking European countries, right? Is that what you're saying? Like he's disbanding NATO.
We were always there when they needed help. We always would have been there when they needed help. I mean, think of it. We're there to protect Europe from Russia. In theory, it doesn't affect us. We have an ocean, big, fat, beautiful ocean.
Big fat. It's a fat one.
But we're there to protect NATO, to protect them from Russia. But they're not there to protect us. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, what do you mean protect you? We're not being fucking... There's nothing that's happened to us in Iran that you didn't cause. And they're not attacking Americans on American soil. And American bases, yeah, after you guys struck first. You guys fired the first fucking shot. This is not a fucking defensive war. It's the Department of War, not the Department of Defense, right? I mean, at least Israel says IDF because they're pretending it's about defense when it's about aggression.
I tell you, a lot of people were big NATO people. I was never big. It was okay. I got them to pay 5%. By the way, they haven't paid it yet. You know that. I got them to pay 5% from 2% to 5%. They didn't pay it yet. I got them to pay up to 2% because they weren't paying the 2%. Then I got them to pay 5%, which they should be at. And we had a lot of, that was great. Oh, only Trump could do it. But the problem is they haven't paid. Because if you look at the numbers...
Well, then Trump didn't do it, right?
They haven't paid yet. So we were there for them, but they were not there for us. Did we need them? No. I never thought we needed them. I was more doing a test. I said, I really would love to have you come up. Bring your boats. You can sail through the beautiful Hormuz Straits, and you can...
Yeah, but they would get sunk because you're not even sailing through it, right? You're just the beautiful Hormuz Straits. It's a strait of Hormuz. It's a small area. And it's easy to close, and they have the missiles to do it, and they keep on doing it. And you can't do anything fucking about it. And you weren't asking these people because it was a test. You were asking them because you don't want fucking American ships to be sunk because, that'll be a bad look. One of your big ships gets sunk. There's some kind of battle you lose that everyone sees, and if you don't grab the Hormuz Strait, whenever you do stuff like this, there's always a chance that you lose, right? And like there could be a major loss where a big shocking event where Trump can't avoid it. And then they're going to drop a nuke on Iran? Like what's going to happen? Like he boxed himself in here. Like they can't accept defeat. And
protect people that are being shot at. They didn't do it. And that's small potatoes. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, does it affect the state visit with the King that you're going to have in April? Are you looking forward to that?
With the King?
With the King coming here?
No. He's a friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. As you know, he
was really good friends. His brother was an Epstein guy. We were pretty close, me and Prince Andrew. Right? And he was friends with Jimmy Savile. We're all cut from the same cloth.
He honored me and our country. He really honored our country. But we had an amazing time. I've known him as Prince Charles. I know him as King Charles. I'm proud of him. He's fighting a tough battle. He's tough. I think
he's tough, that guy. He's pretty tough. Battle. What's the battle? His fucking family being disgraced by Epstein? Is that what the thing is? Like, the same thing that happened to you?
I think he's a fantastic. It has nothing to do with that. It's different. But and he's gonna be here very soon, as you know. We're gonna have a state dinner. It's gonna be great. But I was very disappointed when the Prime Minister said, I won't be able to. It started with the island that the indigenous have claimed away from your country. And for some reason, you went for it. And all of a sudden, indigenous people that never saw the place, they never saw it. He was afraid that we would do something to insult because he's a liberal. That's the way.
He's a liberal, that's all. He's just, they're all liberals. They're worthless.
They think. And when we needed the island to land that beautiful B-2 bomber,
They're so beautiful. They're the most beautiful bombers in the world.
we were told we can't use it. We'd have to fly back to Missouri, which is a 17-hour flight.
Who wants that fucking flight? It's not like I got one of my jets that I got from Qatar.
As opposed to a couple of hours. And I said, you gotta be kidding. Not good. They made a big mistake.
Mr. President, is the Friday deadline for Iran, is that pushed back now, or, and if not?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
I don't know. That's how deadlines work. I just, changed my mind 12 times because that's what you do with deadlines.
Mr. Witkoff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along. And if it's not going along, maybe not. And we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. In Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity.
Trump time, right? That's what I was talking about, which is true. With Trump time, but it's not good shit that happens, right? Like, there's a lot of shit that's happening in apocalypse, and this is Trump time.
Say it, what?
European Parliament just passed a major deportation plan. Some of the tenets of it are that member states can deport rejected asylum seekers to third countries regardless of whether they have a connection to it. It allows for detention periods of up to 2 years and also offshore return hubs or detention centers similar to ours.
Who did this? Which country?
European Parliament, and the vote was not close. It was 389 in favor to 208 against.
I'd vote with them, yeah.
Europe is where you are now. Do you think that will move the needle with Democrats?
I don't care about the Democrats. The Democrats hate our country.
The Democrats hate our country. So he's just canceled NATO. I mean, if his words meant anything, because he's a complete bullshitter. Like, that's what people forget. Like, he's supposed to say shit that matters. His words are supposed to matter, but they don't, because he's all fucking bullshit. Nobody but his own supporters and Fox News really doesn't believe it. They just go along with it. We know this war isn't about Iran having a nuclear weapon. And over all this bullshit, he's just said, well, we're not going to be there for Europe when they need us, when Russia attacks them, because that's the only thing that could happen there, right? And he's driving Europe to China. China is already working all these countries, and in terms of being allies. And so these allies, he's out on his own. Like, he's just doing this on his own. I mean, him and Israel doesn't give a shit about America. Israel's going to do nothing for America and never does anything for anybody else. They care about Israel. So, and they, want to see America taken down, and they want to see chaos. They want to be a superpower. And in the chaos, they're going to try to grab as much of these various places as they can. But they're getting their ass handed to them by Iran. At least that's, part of the narrative, one side of the narrative. And either way, the Strait of Hormuz matters to all these countries, and Trump has just fucked it over. And, like, in a way that people are like, America's already done. Our life isn't sustainable. Our lifestyle isn't sustainable, and that's been known for a long time. And so all these things are happening, right? And so for him to say the Democrats don't care about our country when he's driving the country into the ground. Now, the Democrats are also selfish, worthless pieces of shit. But, if you're going to say that about them, it solely applies to you.
The Democrats are in chaos right now, and they have no common sense. They have one quality that's amazing. They stick together. And it's harder because they stick together in a ridiculous policy like men playing in women's sports, open borders for everybody, including...
Yeah, those things people don't give a shit about right now. When gas goes up to $10 a gallon, no one's going to care about immigration or trans rights or any of this stuff. Like, the things that got Trump in no longer will matter. When gas is up to $8, $10, whatever it's going to go up to here, and then globally. When Trump starts had been getting blamed for all this shit, and the midterms happen, and he's sitting there. I mean, these guys all fucking know it's coming, right?
Murderers and anybody else that want it, we're open to you. Come in, murderers. You know why they do that? They do that for a couple of reasons, but they do it for votes because they think they're going to vote for the Democrats.
They want as many murderers voting for them as possible.
Oh, I did great with the Hispanic vote. Tremendous with the Hispanic vote. You know, I turned that whole thing around. The Hispanics like me, and I like them. And you know, it's interesting.
I like them. They like me. It's just the way it works.
Interesting with the Hispanics. When I built the wall, everybody said, "Oh, that's going to ruin us for the Hispanic." It was just the opposite. They know all about immigration, and they know all about death and crime, and they're smart people, and they have common sense. They wanted to be protected from the people that were coming into our country. So, you know, I won the election with a very tremendous Hispanic vote, and I think it's higher now than it was then. So, we're a party of common sense. The Democrats are a party of
the opposite of common sense.
Insanity. They're a party that will destroy.
Wait a second, I got fucking shit on that.
The Democrats are a party of insanity.
Insanity. They're insane in the membrane.
They're a party that will destroy our country. If I didn't win this election, I believe our country would have been destroyed by now. 1 year, that's all it would have taken. If you had Kamala.
You know, like you literally are destroying the country right now. And it would have been destroyed no matter who's in it because, you know, what I started this thing with, our country's insolvent, which they've known forever. So, like, if that's in Fortune magazine, and then, you know, when Elon Musk did Doge, he said, yeah, if we don't stop this, our country's going to go bankrupt. You know, I started the video with this, right? That was going to happen, Democrat or Republican. It just would happen in a different way. You know, it's already happened. Like, it's where you're so far in debt, you're so fucked, you're insolvent. You know, and the biggest problem is the immorality, right? The lack of character qualities, the lack of integrity, the lack of any kind of ethics, you know, the dumbing down of America. It's the quality of the people, which has gone downhill over the years, and now, of course, with the internet, right? This other thing, the lawsuit, you know, with this girl claiming she's wrecked and owed $6 million because her parents allowed her to be on the internet as a fucking toddler, right? And so, like, this is the end of a demonic civilization, which was going to end, eventually. They just haven't let you know yet, right? They're not letting you know, even though the information's there. They put out all these apocalyptic movies, and they're showing all these things for years, and they just don't have the heart to tell you, or they don't want you to panic and say it's over. We're fucking broke. We're fucked, right? Your lifestyle's out of stock, and so they're not saying that. But other than that, it's right there for everyone to see.
Or Sleepy Joe, either one, it wouldn't have mattered. They're the same thing. Two sleepy people.
Kamala, and it's Sleepy Kamala.
Stupid people.
They're both sleepy. No one said Kamala was sleepy. You know, I called her knee pads because, the way she got her political career started was as a 29-year-old, she serviced a 62-year-old kingmaker in California sexually. And, she dated him. And that's how she became Kamala Harris, right?
I believe, and by the way, Gavin Newsom, who is one of the candidates, I believe he took himself out of the running when he says he suffers from mental disability.
Okay, so dyslexia isn't a mental disability. I'm going to show you one thing at the end of this. At this point, CNN broke in. and Dana Bash said, just for the record, he said he has dyslexia, not a mental disability. It's not a mental disability. It's why my videos are good, like in terms of my contribution, pattern recognition. And Trump is dyslexic. This guy who, this comedian, I forgot who this guy said Trump shit his pants on the set of The Apprentice. And, Trump couldn't say 3-syllable words. He can't read. He says it's because he's dyslexic, right? Which, I don't know. Dyslexia has got a bad name and, whatever it is. Because there are lots of people who have been very visionary people who have dyslexia. Because it's a different learning style. It's not a mental illness, right? but they're both dyslexic. Trump has got, he can't read. You can see he doesn't read well.
And a reporter said it was terrible that I talked that way about somebody with mental disability. I said, I have no problem with it, but I don't want a person with mental disability to be my president.
And again, his voice is getting so weak now, much like Joe Biden. But mental disability, like, it's not, you're insulting and not getting, I'm not insulted. Like, I'm smarter than him, right? I'm more evolved than Trump. So, like, my having dyslexia, but he has it, right? He's insulting himself.
You don't want to have a person...
Wait. I noticed this when he did this. Look at him slurp. Remember they said he's slurping.
With mental disability to be my president. You don't want
See
to...
that?
Have a person with mental disability being a president. And Gavin Newsom said that he can't read a speech. He can't do almost anything. And then he said he's as dumb as all the people in the room. And he got accused of being a racist, which was an amazing set. I thought it was the worst interview I've ever seen anybody give. He's actually a very stupid person. So I believe he's out of the running. I think that statement, that interview...
See, like, he's making this about... Like, this is him campaigning, like he would have said about Kamala. This is Trump campaigning. Remember, he said the same thing about DeSantis when he was winning, and then Nikki Haley. Like he's challenging him, like he's going to run for president. Like, he's talking like a guy who's going to run again.
He admitted that he's a stupid person. I don't want a stupid person being president. I'll say it right now. I say it because no press never reports it. I'm the only president that ever took a cognitive test. I took it.
So, this thing I want to show this again at some point. It's not really Joe Biden's disappeared. But MSNBC, back when it was MSNBC, this guy interviewed some guy he's a doctor that specializes in Parkinson's. And the guy used all these technical terms, and he demonstrated all the way that Joe Biden, he said a first-year intern should be able to diagnose Joe Biden with Parkinson's just by the way he walks into a room, right? Because that's how bad he had it. And he was asked about these cognitive tests, and he said, well, there's one that takes like 4 or 5 hours, and that's not the one Trump took, right? And, Trump took one to make, and he has his doctor give it, and it's all a bullshit thing, right? Like, if Trump took one of these big cognitive tests, he'd definitely show signs of dementia, not as bad as Joe Biden. But they said that he's this slurping, he can't control his, they start to aspirate their food when they have this kind of cognitive decline. And, they end up getting pneumonia and these things. If this happens to Trump, it's the same thing with Joe Biden, right? He's now, I think, older than Joe Biden, or, 1 year younger than Joe Biden was his last year in office, or the same age, I think. So somewhere around there. And, and he's starting to fall apart. He eats like fucking McDonald's foods. He eats toxic foods. He's not a healthy person. He's been obese, overweight for most of his adult life. He seems to have lost weight, which is not because he's more healthy. It's because it happens when you see my dad turned into a skeleton. My dad had a big pot belly his whole life. My dad was, I remember my dad like my age now. My dad retired, so he must have been 63, I think 65 or 63, when he retired my senior year in high school. And so, I'm 62, and, my brother got really big for a while. Like, I put on weight. I've lost like 15 pounds because of my recent heart thing. And I'm continuing to lose weight because I've kind of set my mind to it. But, my dad was overweight, and then he just turned into a fucking skeleton, right? His body, he got, irritable bowel syndrome, and he just wasn't able to put on weight, right? And he was just losing weight. He was like, turning into nothing. My grandfather as well. This is what happens, and this is what's starting to happen with Trump, right? He's starting to dwindle.
3 times. It's actually a very hard test for a lot of people. It wasn't hard for me.
I aced it. I aced the fucking cognitive test.
But it's a cognitive test. It starts off with an easy question, and by the time you get to the middle, it gets tougher. By the time you get to the end, very few people can answer those questions. They get very tough, mathematical equations and things.
Yeah, because, this guy, he's a mathematical genius.
I took it 3 times, I aced it all 3 times.
I aced it.
I have numerous doctors that I have no idea who they are. And I was told when I went in, they said, Doc Ronnie told me this. My current doctors were fantastic doctors. They said, well, if you take it, it's Walter Reed. It's essentially a public hospital. And if you do badly, it's probably going to get out. But I aced it. I got them all right. And one doctor said, I've never seen anybody get them all right. I've been doing the test for 20 years.
He's the greatest.
I want people, I would love to see anybody that's a president or a vice president or anybody that has any chance of being a president, I would like to see them take a cognitive test. Because we had a man in this office that had no clue what was happening.
Okay. And you do. Like, we can, when you know more than the president or what the president's putting out there, but you can see he's in sleepy Joe Biden land, right? He's in, what did I call him? Joey Magoo, Mr. Magoo, whatever it was. Jojo Magoo. But, he's in that cat territory. Like, he's, not as, Joe Biden was already gone before he had Parkinson's before he was elected, right? And he probably had it, he had, early signs of it. Well, not early signs. He had it when he was vice president. And he had prostate cancer. And they, the auto pen, and they were handling him. Trump is not very curious. And Joe Biden was a professional politician. So Joe Biden was more into politics than Trump is. Trump is disinterested by it. But, he's in the same place, but he's fucking way worse. And he's acting like a dictator. Joe Biden at least was trained as a politician to understand political. No president would ever be so out there by saying what he said about NATO, because you need allies going forward. And when you piss people off and you really do need them, they're like, fuck you, like just like in life. And they're all self-interested. And as soon as America goes down and realizes that these allies aren't going to go to war with China and Russia, that they're not going to be there, right? Because of all the shit that he's doing now and all the stuff he said. This is what we're looking at, right? And, China's already working these countries, and he's not acknowledging that, right? Like, he doesn't acknowledge that he thinks that we're just so great and he's so great that people just want to be around him. And that's simply not the case. It's the opposite. Okay, so I searched this list of successful people with dyslexia. I got to list of successful P. So I was typing this in, and I said list of successful. I was about to type in people, and then when I hit letter P, it already had volunteered this because people were already searching this shit, right? Einstein, Steven Spielberg, Richard Branson, Whoopi Goldberg, Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, Jim Carrey, Keira Knightley, Octavia Spencer, Walt Disney. Again, a lot of people that I don't really, Leonardo da Vinci, Agatha Christie, Andy Warhol, Pablo Picasso, who I don't like, John Lemon, Aaron Brockovich, Philip Schultz, Jack Homer. I think Bill Gates is somebody. All these people. There's lots of people. It's not a mental illness, right? It's a different learning style. So I asked list of visionaries, people with dyslexia. Says here, we saw Steve Jobs, Charles Schwab, the guy who founded JetBlue, the guy who founded IKEA, the guy who founded Kinko's, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, Alexander Graham Bell, a lot of these people, famous people, Tommy Hilfiger, Agatha Christie, John F. Kennedy. We already had a president with dyslexia. George Washington. Apparently, I don't know how they would know he had dyslexia, right? That's weird. Like, they even have a diagnosis. I don't know. This is some AI bullshit. But anyways, deeper dive with AI mode. It's, there are a lot of people who have dyslexia that, you have to be intelligent to have it, right? But there's, issues. There's things, I reversed my B's and D's and I had issues. They thought I was retarded, right? So I wouldn't take these tests. But, there's a lot of people who have it that become very successful. and contribute a lot to the world because it's a different way of looking at the world. And it's a different learning style. There's advantages of it. I believe that Babaji, the second master of the Science system, was dyslexic or dyslexic adjacent or something. But anyways, Trump's saying this, and there was this guy, this comedian, who he used to work for Trump and the pageants, and he gave a variety of interviews in Trump's first term. And he said shit like Trump was, addicted to Adderall, and he couldn't pronounce these words because he had dyslexia, in which, I thought he was saying because it was well known. But, we know Trump doesn't like to read speeches. He's got some issues. And Trump has his own, way of being brilliant in terms of getting people to believe in his bullshit. But anyways, let me switch over to voiceover here, and I'll wrap this video up. Okay, so Friday morning today, I just edited this video. I had to redo the whole thing. It was a kind of a pain in the ass. But I got one comment here. I think 2 comments here. Yo, Paul. Yo, Paul. Would love to get your opinion on Professor Jiang, Jiang. He's been everywhere on YouTube lately, even Tucker Carlson claims to famous predictions, but he borderlines a lot on truth or stuff we touch on here. Honestly, I believe if the truth community is ever going to survive, what needs to morph into smart, charismatic, qualified people take him more seriously because of these qualities. Well, there's no fucking... The truth community is done. There's nothing here. But this is like the 10th person that's asked me my opinion about this guy, right? And I've seen him. Like, I saw him on Tucker Carlson, whatever. If he's on Tucker Carlson, he's compromised, right? All these people. If he's part of the show, if he's, whatever he is, like these people that go on to these, if you know his name, if he's famous, he's compromised. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't, if you want to listen to somebody. I mean, Tucker Carlson can have, good takes. He's smart. I mean, he puts out a quality product, and people can listen to anybody. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen to change anything. There's no truth community. If you think about what the truth community represents, one, it would be prevention, like seeing what's going to happen in the future and preventing it. And that's not going to happen. So, we're not preventing shit. Like, people are, this is God's will, and, people want this. People, whether they admit to it or not, they want, at least on a soul level, everybody wants this system to end. Like, people are miserable. They don't want to, the fear of losing everything that they know is their life sucks, and we all have that in us. But deep down, we all want this. It's what's supposed to happen, right? The need for evolution. And so, if there's going to be a saving of anything, if there's going to be value in the truth community, they'd all be saying what I'm saying about spirituality. That there's, one thing that has to happen, that's people have to change. Like, it's just that simple. I say it over and over again. People kind of get it, hear it, but don't do anything about it personally. Everyone would be doing the meditation, right? I just saw the guy, and I think he probably is like a Chinese plant, whatever. I watched a minute of him. But, so based on that. But there's no saving the truth community. Like, that's the whole wrong way to look at it, because the truth community was already fucked. They've already dealt with the truth community in various ways with QBs and all that shit. And now with Trump, they're going to blame all the people who are conspiracy theorists that push for Trump. All these, shills, all these pieces of shit. And that's who's going to always get blamed, because, alternative media, and there's going to be, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, the chaos, whatever. But the truth community doesn't really have a purpose. There's only one person, as far as I know, that has a solution, and that's spirituality. And that's what I present here, because, it was the point of me understanding this in the first place. Only spirituality will save this world. That people have to embrace the divinity within them, and they have to become saints. They have to become servants of God. Because, we're now servants of our ego. Like, I say this over and over again. And so it's the answer, and people don't want that answer, so they're going to have to suffer, and then maybe you'll come around to that answer, and maybe not, right? There's this guy who reached out to me from the Gratefullness meditation. When I first, I kind of was seeing that Dodgy was a piece of shit, the guy who took over for the third master of the system. And I started to, make videos about it because there's all these problems. They were, all this, if you've listened to my older videos, my older Journey series videos, you guys would know what I'm talking about in terms of this time period. But I called Dodgy a little bitch, which didn't go over well with people. Right? They were calling for my death in India and shit like this, my assassination, right? They were really upset at me, all these pieces of shit. And somebody reached out to me, this kid, about the Brighter Minds scam, which was a scam called midbrain activation. Had already been debunked in India. And some kid that was friends with my kids in India, who was a clear con artist, like he was a kind of funny kid, but he was kind of a grifter, like a little Trump. And he showed Dodgy he could read with his feet. And Dodgy bought into it like a dumb fuck. And he wanted to create a scam of his own. I don't know if he knew it was a scam. At some point he did. And this guy who was a doctor, he was an Indian guy who grew up in America, very American. And he reached out to me, and he had been asked, amongst other people, to verify this scam. And he did legitimate research. He put on blindfolds. He put on eye patches, which, is, where there's no way to see through the eye patch. And whenever that's done, these kids are supposed to see without their eyes, right? And so they put these blindfolds on, but they peek through the blindfold. It's just a trick, right? And the kids learn to do it. It's a whole thing. And this guy did extensive research, and Dodgy and all these people turned on him. Like they all hassled him. Like, you're not supposed to fucking do real research. You're supposed to just rubber stamp this thing so Dodgy doesn't get embarrassed, right? And so this guy was, messed up over it, and he's like, I'm in a cult. And so I turned on Facebook, and he had a message there, like he had just put out a message. And he's, back in with Dodgy, like this guy. And he posted on Facebook about how he just wanted to go to his guru and fall at his feet and tell him how grateful he was for the life that the guru provided. This guy started under Chargy, and he knew. I told him that Dodgy was shitting on Chargy's legacy, which voided Dodgy's whole mastery. Chargy was his third master. You can't ever say that your master, the guy before you, was shitty and you're better. It's like people saying, like St. Peter said, "Oh, Jesus sucked, but I'm the real deal." Like it voids out, the only reason St. Peter was a saint is because of Jesus, right? And so, but this guy who knew Dodgy was a scammer is posting on Facebook about how great Dodgy is and his guru and falling at his feet. Because that's what fucking people do. Even this guy knew, and he, for whatever reason, his culture is, whatever made him fold. Because people just suck. Like it's just, they'll take the low road whenever they get the opportunity. And tie themselves to institutions and shit like that. There's one more comment here. This person said, I'm on the other end of Australia and we don't have empty shelves, but petrol is another matter, it is. And he put out like $8 signs. Thanks, Trump. The frustrating thing is Australia is so rich in natural resources, but they won't tap into them. Yeah, I was wondering why I figured they'd have oil. They have tons of gold there and shit. It's like they got a lot of stuff there in Australia. It's a weird place. But, so that's somebody that's there. We'll see how this all plays out. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.